Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Woody Allen Retrospectives Sister Project, another episode of Woody Allen Adjacent, where we talk about other interesting films in cinema through the lens of a Woody Allen fan. As always, I'm here with my co-host and partner on this journey, James Daniel Walsh of Manic Expression. Sir, welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm excited to talk about this movie.
So am I, for so many reasons. But before that, guys, if you missed our last discussion, we spoke about 2012's liberal arts. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link in the top right-hand corner of the YouTube card, and I'll put that link down below. We're going to have a playlist of all these movies as we accumulate this Woody Allen adjacent project. You're going to see a library of Woody Allen-like films, and I'm looking forward to us building this collection of discussions. And we're moving on to the next movie, which was a pick by James. James, would you mind telling us a bit about this movie, what we're discussing, the synopsis, and then we'll go back and forth as always.
Yeah. Well, the movie is Keeping the Faith from the year 2000. It was directed by Edward Norton and stars him, Ben Stiller, and Jenna Elfman. They play childhood friends who all reconnect when they're adults, and Edward Norton has become a priest, and Ben Stiller a rabbi, and Jenna Elfman is the woman that they both fall in love with, and wacky hijinks ensue from there.
Pretty straightforward. I mean, you've seen this set up a lot of times: two men, one woman, childhood friends. You know, kind of a third wheel freeway situation. How's it gonna go? The first thing I want to say, James, is again, the way we're doing this Woody Allen adjacent is I've got two movies, James has one, we go back and forth. This is James' pick. But when James said we're going to talk about Keeping the Faith, I said, James, I saw that movie. Because I remember a couple of years ago, I was looking for Christmas movies. I did like a Google search and it just came up. And I thought, Edward Norton and Ben Stiller did a movie together in the 2000s? And I've never heard of it, or I haven't heard people talk about it. What is this movie, Keeping the Faith? Huh? So, and I watched this, James, last year, and I remember thinking to myself, meh. I remember thinking, okay, the movie was just very paint by numbers. I just remember I was looking for a Christmas movie. It just seemed generic, romance, and I just thought, I don't know. I came away from the movie just thinking, okay, so I don't know. It wasn't what I was looking for. So now, a year later, you've brought this back up. I've rewatched this movie last week and I was blown away for so many reasons. And to be honest with you, I've got so many misconceptions of what I expect in this movie to be. I just felt like I watched the movie for the first time. And I know this happens to people sometimes, but this was a really, really damn good movie. I'm really impressed. And I think the fact this movie is kind of been swallowed up by each's career, they are so well celebrated and loved for so many other things they've done. I can understand why this movie has disappeared in both of their filmographies, that people don't even know they did this movie. But that's why we're gonna talk about it. But I'm gonna throw it back to you, James. What's your history with this movie, and you know, why did you recommend this movie? I want to hear your side of things.
I have an extremely complicated history with this movie. I was 20 years old when it came out, and I was studying to be a priest.
Are you serious? Oh my God,
Yep.
I'm just finding out something about you. I didn't even know. My God, James. Okay,
Yep.
okay, keep going.
And you know, on my father's side, everybody is Irish Catholic, and on my mother's side, I am a quarter Jewish.
Wow.
So I'm 20 years old. I have just had my heart broken for the first time really in my whole life, which is why I went to go join the priesthood. It was like other guys who go join the Foreign Legion or something. You know, woman broke your heart, so you're going to just chuck it all and go.
Oh my God, this movie just gets even better and better. I mean, putting your life into it is blowing my mind. Keep going.
I remember sitting there and watching it, and it was something really comforting at the time. It's This is it's a really nice movie. Like, there's no villains in it. There's no, it's sort of described as a comedy drama. I see it pretty much as a straight comedy. With a romantic comedy, it's got the dramatic elements to it, but it's still pretty much just a comedy. And I think maybe the reason it got swallowed up by everybody else's, the filmography that's grown from Edward Norton and Ben Stiller is it's lightweight. You could even call it inconsequential, but
True.
a movie doesn't have to be earth-shattering in order to be a good movie. And this was just something that we're coming off of, like, I remember at that time, like Fight Club came out, and
American History X.
American History X,
yes.
And even Ben Stiller at the time was, he was in a movie called Permanent Midnight where he was a heroin addict. And so all these really heavy movies with these two guys, and then out comes, which was especially shocking, that Edward Norton directed it.
Yes.
He's so, the opposite of what you've seen him in every movie up to that point. And
that's my first problem, but I'll get to you. And it's an internal problem, but I'll let you keep going.
But it was just, at the time, it was just a really nice movie to sit through, and I remember just feeling good coming out of it. And I've gone back to it many times over the years. I probably watched it at least once every 5 years.
I think this movie has extremely high rewatchability, and maybe it's because it's so kind of light in its execution. But just like you said, I think one of the reasons why when I watched it the first time I couldn't really see it really is because, and I really think people need to understand this, because I think a lot of people are going to have this problem. Edward Norton has done such extremely intense movies, and Ben Stiller this is more his, wheelhouse comedy, especially after this. He had a massive explosive comedy that kind of defined his career, Meet the Parents. Before this, it was the one with one of his greatest comedy. People say it's actually one of the greatest American comedies, Something About Mary.
Yep.
And when I saw Edward Norton and Ben Stiller playing these roles, in my mind, they were already typecast. Edward Norton's a super serious guy, Ben Stiller's a super slapstick guy, and they are acting. They're just acting as different people, and I couldn't see it. I literally just thought they were. It was too much for my brain. I just thought, I see Edward Norton, I see super serious guy, but he's playing a very gentle, humble, nice Catholic priest, and I'm just like, no, that's just what is he doing? Where's the edge? And I see Ben Stiller playing more of what I've seen normally, but even then, I just think it doesn't compute. So I'm just trying to lay it down and say I never took this movie seriously the first time, and it's kind of, I lost something in that. I lost the initial experience because I never saw them as actors. I've seen them do so many. I guess they're kind of typecast in what they've done very well. They do a certain type of movie very well. I'm so used to that. Then when you see them doing these roles, it just doesn't compute. And the first time, I completely just shrugged it off. So the second time, trying to do my review thing, putting on my critique hat, I said, let me clear the deck, clear my mind, and watch this as let me watch these guys as actors. And that's when I saw them act, and I truly saw two different dimensions to both of these guys, which it blows my mind. It really does, because honestly, like I said, if you see these actors for what they normally do and you see this movie, you might be really surprised, because especially for Edward Norton, I'm really shocked at how well he directed and acted in this movie.
Well, and even Ben Stiller, I mean, you mentioned Meet the Parents and There's Something About Mary. He was, I think, starting to get typecast as the embarrassing things happen to him in movies. He's and in this movie he's confident, and he's not those other movies he's sort of the guy chasing the woman, and often not having much luck. And in this one, he's, all the women are chasing him. So it was a different kind of a role for him while still staying in that romantic comedy kind of genre.
Yeah. There is there's a humbleness to this movie and just a genuine execution in how they act, which it just kind of disarms you as the movie goes on. The more I watch the movie, and I just thought I bought the relationship, I bought the friendship, and it's nothing heavy. There's no edge to the movie. That's the most disarming thing. You're watching this movie, seeing these two guys, and expecting edge. Even something about Mary, for it being a romantic comedy, it's kind of crazy. It does some really zany things, and you expect that in this movie. Doesn't do that. Edward Norton, you've seen him dark, twisted things. Doesn't do that, and you see these two A-list actors forming a relationship. And it's really interesting to see the dynamic these two best friends have. So when you put that, that's the first thing that won me over. So the actual story of these two people of different faiths getting together, interesting idea. As Edward Norton says himself, it's a joke. Priest and the Rabbi, it's the most classic joke that he took as an inspiration for an idea for a movie. And that is going to lead me to my first clip. And then I'm going to ask you, James, what you actually thought of this idea, which is a running joke, a classic American joke that he's actually used as a premise for a film. Let's hear Edward Norton talk about that for a second.
First and foremost, it's comedy. I mean, it's funny. It's a rabbi-priest joke, writ large. It's kind of like there was a rabbi and a priest, and they were best friends, and they both fell in love with the same girl, and what happens. And
Priest and a rabbi. I think I've heard this one.
The main appeal of it to me was that it fell very squarely in the tradition of some great comedies that I've always loved, like The Philadelphia Story or Broadcast News, or maybe even Jules and Jim, in terms of like this, this exploration of a dynamic between three people.
Anna, Jake, and Brian were inseparable. Both boys were head over heels in love with her. A love pure and chaste.
I remember talking to Ben at one point. We were talking about what it was all about, and I said to him, in a lot of ways, this is about you. It's perfect for you and me, because it's about two guys who have done really well in their kind of youthful ambition. They've gone after doing things their own way.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to get an interview for him, because this is such an old movie. He's only 20 years old exactly. Right now, so it was hard for me to get a long conversation from doing that. But he created something quite inventive, and it isn't just a gag. I think what he's trying to do here, with the dichotomy of these people come from different places, being best friends, and then adding a triangle element on top of it, it's executed really well. I'm really surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we've already said it was just very surprising coming from him. But I think really the movie that everybody maybe had forgotten at that point that he had done was Everyone Says I Love You.
Oh yeah, take it back to Woody Allen. The Woody Allen's musical.
And you can definitely, I think this is a good example of somebody who took inspiration from Woody, but didn't rip him off, doesn't try to do the Woody character. And it's the comparisons are obvious. It's set in New York, and the characters don't shut up about the fact that it's set in New York. And it's, I think, very comparable to something like Annie Hall, or maybe a lighter version of Hannah and Her Sisters.
Yes, that I agree with. I was going to bring that up as well. Yes.
So it's clear. I mean, even Everyone Says I Love You, in the opening song that Edward Norton sings, has the sort of montage of the city, which many shots in this feel kind of reminiscent of. But at the same time, he doesn't do I've said this about the last two movies that we talked about, that there's one thing that people seem to take away when they try to do a Woody Allen movie, and that's they come off as pretentious, and this movie doesn't.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I agree completely.
It's definitely more sentimental than Woody would go, but it gets the things that he does right, and then puts their own spin on it. It doesn't have like a jazz soundtrack. It doesn't try it, it doesn't even, when it makes sort of references in a Woody Allen movie, it would be jazz or it would be art or something, and this it's Rain Man or The Godfather or things that are more accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Which is fine, which is, Woody himself, if he were into those things more, would probably make those comparisons. So this was, I think, Edward Norton learning a lesson while watching Woody do that, and then putting his own spin on it instead of just trying to make a Woody Allen.
It's actually kind of funny because I think 9 years later, Ben Stiller made his directorial debut with Tropic Thunder. So in 2009, I think if I'm getting the year right, he did Tropic Thunder, his first foray as a director as well. And it's a lot of actors wait until they've got so many movies under their belt before they turn to directing. Well, that's my observation anyway. It's so interesting to see. I know Edward Norton was active from a much younger age anyway. I still think Edward Norton at this time in his career was still quite an underrated actor in the pop culture of Hollywood for the most people. So for him to decide that, I'm gonna be the director. I don't really care that my movie, that my idea is just basically based on a joke, but I have a compelling story I want to tell, and I want to use religion and things that I understand about people around me, and I think I can relate this to a co-worker of mine. And as he said, you heard him say himself, he can plant their experiences in this movie, and it's just a wonderful surprise. I've got so many clips to play, but before we even go any further, I want to say this, guys. A lot of the clips I'm going to play are going to kind of ruin the movie. Please, if you haven't seen this movie, I will tell you now, I really, really, really like this movie. Go watch the movie. I'm going to play a lot of clips I want to kind of dissect and highlight. And I just want to say, please, we don't want to really spoil the experience. This is a movie I highly recommend. I'm going to thank James in advance for bringing this to me. Go watch the movie, come back, and we're going to dig even deeper into this. But blown away, what a surprise. And if you like these two actors and you've seen them do the same kind of movie in different, you know what they do, you're going to get a pleasant surprise here. And yeah, I can't wait to dig even deeper. But I just wanted to say that before we start playing clips and we kind of ruin certain elements of the movie, because the script is great and the dialogue is really great as well, which is why I got so many clips. But yeah, guys, go watch it, come back, pause it, come back, and let's talk about it even more. But James, I think we've been a little bit sexist. We've been focusing on the two male characters.
I was just thinking that.
For too long. Let's talk about Jenna Elfman. And I'm gonna give, funny enough, a bit of a backhanded compliment to her, because she is phenomenal in this role, but she kept reminding me of someone else. Her voice, her mannerisms, her whole character. I really thought she was a reincarnation of another human being, another actress. And then I found out something even funnier. I'm talking of Lauren Graham of Gilmore Girls. They are so similar. It is fucking crazy. Everything about her in this movie reminded me of Lauren Graham, only to find out that they actually did a TV series together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the early 90s, it was called Townies, and they are really good friends. And I'm not even saying, I know this is a deep cut, even if you go back and watch clips, they don't even act the same. I was just so shocked how much, and I love Lauren Graham, by the way. I've already spoken about Gilmore Girls on my YouTube channel. Bad Santa, I've done so much great things with Lauren Graham. Jenna Elfman in her own right is fantastic. I already am in love with Lauren Graham anyway, so if you've got another actor like that in any way, she's such a perfect pick. She's so great. And let me tell you something, when you got these movies where, it was one woman between two guys, I find that a lot of the script kind of makes you hate the female character, and this is not one of them times. In fact, the balance and the understanding of where each character is coming from is phenomenal. And even in the latter part of the movie, where you get into the love triangle a lot more, and you could in a way see her as a villain, maybe. Well, not a villain. You could see her as using one of the characters. No, the way she explains herself and the dialogue that is written, which I'm going to play later, she is she was amazing. Perfect cast. Amazing. I loved her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew her at the time from a TV show that had been on called Dharma and Greg.
Yes,
where she
correct.
played more of like a hippie character,
Mm.
which is the exact opposite of this character, who's, you know, businesswoman and sort of master of the universe. And, you know, I've had those female friends where you're hanging out with them and you're just friends, but they do certain things and you're like, wait a minute, are they into me? I don't, what is happening right now? You know, and the confusion that can ensue from that. And I've had those friends. And so I related to that, you know, how things could be mistaken and how people could get their feelings hurt. But like you said, you could easily end up hating this character, and you never do. You know, you could say that Ben Stiller and her making the decision not to tell Edward Norton that wasn't a great decision for them to make, but you understand it. You never
Completely.
You never think these people are cruel. You never think, even when everything goes wrong, you never blame her. And that's not only a credit to the writing, but it's a credit to her performance, where, you know, the best kind of romantic comedies, for, you know, I think of this actually kind of as a romantic comedy. It's a chick flick for guys, in a lot of ways. And the best kind of movies like that,
I think even that underserves it. I think it's even stronger than that. I think that's even doing it a disservice, to be honest with you.
But you should have a crush on the girl, just like they do.
Yes.
I mean, if you know, I mean, the best example of that is Annie Hall.
Mm-hmm.
But you absolutely, you're watching this movie, and you'd go out with Jenna Elfman in a second. This character from this movie, I mean, she's funny and smart and
charismatic as hell. Yes.
Watching this movie yesterday, rewatching it, I thought, why did she never break out into something bigger? Why did she not end up?
Because Lauren Graham took her shine. Man. I'm telling you, they're like the same goddamn person. Let me play the first clip, which is dedicated to her. And it's a funny clip. But the first time I saw it, I thought it was a little bit cringy. But again, every time this movie was kind of like, I don't really like this, it would always win me off for the end. And I'll play the clip, and then you hopefully you'll hear what I'm talking about.
I am so sorry. What a waste. People should have to qualify to go out with you. You're too precious to be on the open market.
That's what I try to tell them.
See, they should listen to you.
You're the best, you know that? If only you were Jewish.
Yeah, well, nobody's perfect. So what'd you wear?
I'm not going to tell you what I wore on my date. Why should I do that?
I want to get an image of a young rabbi on the prowl. What's your game, man?
All right. Navy blue button-down shirt.
It's a good color for your eyes.
Navy blue pinstripe suit.
I can picture that. Tasteful, yet with a quiet power. Shoes?
Black Kenneth Cole leather.
Size?
Big.
Ow!
Want to hear about the special knot in my tie?
Oh, baby, no, we gotta save room for dessert. Don't give up hope, okay?
I'll keep it alive.
That's right. Goodbye, Mr. Sharp-Dressed Man.
Bye-bye.
You see, it sounds like they're having this like foreplay, but at the end, you can see they're just being very playful. And when Edward Norton, I'm going to compliment Edward Norton's directing as well. It's a very close shot of her, and it looks like she's, you know, enjoying the sensualness of what he's saying. But they're friends, and you can at this stage you can see that. And again, she has just got so much charisma. I thought, you know, she's kind of bro-y. She's kind of got that masculine energy a bit, but it doesn't seem forced. A credit to her as an actress, it seems genuine. It just seems that who she is, and it's very attractive. Very attractive.
And you also get the feeling that maybe in a different scenario, she could have ended up with Edward Norton. That maybe she does have a crush on him as well. It's just not the same kind.
Yeah.
And but that, you know, had he not become a priest, maybe she would have come back, and it would have been a more difficult decision which one she actually liked. which is something that again is understandable. They don't make her out to be playing the two off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've had those friends, and you kind of flirt, and sometimes you don't think anything of it, and sometimes something comes of it. And I found that very relatable. They have great chemistry together, Ben Stiller and Jenna Elfman, and they also just, you're rooting for them.
Yeah.
Which is not something that always happens in these kind of movies. Sometimes one of them comes off so badly that you just think at the end, why are you two together? This person really screwed you over, and you never ever have that feeling in this.
No, I hate movies, or there's a lot of TV series you can watch where this guy's playing this woman's playing both guys, and it's going to come to a head, and you're just dreading that moment. I wish I could just bring something to memory, but this mostly happens in television shows, and then it goes back and forth and back and forth. But when it was happening, especially jumping into the part where Ben Stiller and her was starting to have the relationship, I never felt like it was malicious, like you said. I never felt like they were having those sexy scenes, and poor old Edward Norton, no, because we saw Edward Norton living his life and going through his thing as well. And I guess from a writer's perspective, Edward Norton was directing as well. He didn't actually write the movie. I get the writer's name as well. But he, obviously he guided the movie. And to actually direct the movie, it takes a lot. So I think it would have been a lot for him to I think he made the right choice. I actually wouldn't have enjoyed this movie if she felt equally about both of them and then she had to make a choice. It's been done before. I think it's much more natural that, to be honest with you, pretty early on the movie, you can, from that conversation, you can say she's leaning towards Ben Stiller. It's immediate. And I think that's more realistic. I think I think that was very natural. I think it was a really good choice. And coming to the movie where Edward Norton does kind of find out, it's how that happens is natural as well, which we'll talk about. But before we get more into the plot about that, I want to talk about Edward Norton's directing here. I thought his shots were really good. Now, again, I don't really want to compare it to Woody Allen, but, taking those shots from New York, they didn't linger or love the city as much or make it as much as the characters Woody Allen would. But I really enjoyed it. I think he did a really good job. I think he had his own style, and I think it was his own thing. And I still think, again, when we spoke about I Love You, Daddy, and, Louis C.K., it just felt so apish, like he was copying, that he was trying. This just felt like, I didn't feel that way. When Edward Norton was going over the city, there was one scene in particular where they're going to a party and they're on a boat and it looks beautiful, and and you can see the people there. It's shot really well. I think it looks really nice, and I'm like, yeah, I can see Edward Norton's stamp here. I can see his flair here, and it really, and consistently throughout the movie, the church scenes, the scenes where they're just walking and going places, the movie breathes. There's not just jumping from scene to scene to scene to scene again, like I Love You, Daddy. The movie breathes. You get to see the lives of these characters. It isn't all about the love triangle either. You get to see them doing, each one of them have their own lives and their own qualms and their own paths. And I think the movie breathes, which is really good. It's not like a 1.5 hour movie. It just gets from here to there. It breathes.
Well, it is a little bit of a longer movie.
Yeah.
For this type of a movie, and it doesn't feel its length. But the thing that allows it to do that the I Love You, Daddy and Liberal Arts didn't is you also have a supporting cast that you get to know.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I rewatched this, because it had been a few years since I watched it, because I forgot how good Anne Bancroft is.
Yeah.
In this movie, and how important it is to have Milos Forman in it as the older priest, and Eli Wallach as the older rabbi, who sort of are mentors to the younger guys.
Yeah.
You get to know all of these other characters and care about them and see how they influence the story in a way where, like I was saying in liberal arts, it felt like the Richard Jenkins character his story was interesting, but it didn't feel all that connected to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
This one, it Anne Bancroft gets to be funny, and she gets to sort of have a character all of her own and see how that character impacts the rest of the story. So yeah, the longer running time, I was actually surprised when I looked it up yesterday to see how long it was. I thought, this is like 2 hours long. This doesn't feel 2 hours long.
I think, again, it's so rewatchable. When you watch it again and you're not jumping from scene to scene, you get to enjoy the congregations. You get to enjoy the things of Edward Norton directing, and that's what's great. Woody Allen does a lot of that as well. Woody Allen goes a bit further, but here, I think that's great. And that's what I think makes this movie time a lot better, age a lot more. It ages much more gracefully. It works really, really well. I just still can't get over how much of a different experience this is the second time. And I guess I'm coming across that I adore the movie. I don't adore the movie. The movie doesn't have that edge that I was expecting. And that deflated me. Like, this is really, I want to call it somber. It's really light. I mean, that just kind of like, where's the confrontation? And there is confrontations. In fact, let me start playing the clips that really got to me. And again, this is all script. Even if you don't see this, guys, you listen to me. Just listen and tell me if this isn't. This is a great conversation. This is the first time. This is when there's a confession between the two characters. I'll just let it speak for itself. I loved it. Just hear the just the genuineness in these conversations.
I am in love with you, Jake.
Yeah, I love you too.
No, you are in love with me, you jerk. You just won't say it because you're scared of what it involves.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, me too. But I'm dealing with it because I'm overwhelmed by this feeling that I have for you. And I want to see if I can work it out.
Great. How do I work it out?
Okay, let's just take it from the top. Don't talk to me about your mother or your brother or your synagogue. Just you. What do you need to work it out?
Those things are me. Do you understand that? I can't separate them out. I mean, it might be hard for you to accept, but the fact that you're not Jewish is a real problem for me.
I don't think so. Okay. All I'm saying, Jake, is I think you should be honest with yourself. Because I think if it was just up to you, you would stick with this and see where this relationship is going. But it's a problem for you because you assume that all the people in your life can't deal with that.
No, they can't.
Well, give them a little credit, Jake. It's the 21st century.
The 21st century? What the hell does the 21st century have to do with anything? This is you and me, right? I thought we were supposed to be just having a good time. Keep it simple.
Well, that's my point. I'm having fun.
I'm having fun, too. This is a lot of fun. Woo, fun.
Well, exactly. So why throw it away?
I could play more of that scene, but again, such a great conversation. And it has kind of a sad, somber ending of that discussion, but what great writing.
But still ends that scene with a joke.
Yeah.
That doesn't deflate the drama of what was happening, but it's a good little capper to that scene, and that's something that kind of struck me rewatching it yesterday, was that this, it's more of a thing in America than it is anywhere else in the world. But we have our genre of movies, the faith-based movies, that are always terrible. They're never good. They're never interesting. They're made for a very, very specific audience. And this movie, there's theological discussions in this movie. These two guys, God is brought up a lot. And, I was studying to be a priest at the time. I'm not religious anymore. It never turned me off. It never made me feel like I was being preached at. But they don't shy away from it. In another movie, they would try to keep that. Oh, we don't want to. Let's not talk about that. Let's not. It's funny. He's a priest. He's a rabbi. Let's not actually talk about what they do. And you see how much their congregations mean to them.
Yeah.
And there's that scene early on where Edward Norton is talking to his congregation and explaining the difference between religion and faith. And it made me wonder. I mean, I tried to look it up. Edward Norton tries to keep his personal life very quiet. He doesn't like to have, everybody know about who he is. But I was watching it going, he's got to be Catholic. There's no way he's not Catholic, because only somebody who had that faith could write those scenes, because otherwise you'd have the atheist character or the cynic or somebody in the movie to come in and kind of shoot holes in everything.
Yeah.
And you never have that. But at the same time, like you said, it never smothers the movie. You never feel like you're watching, what's that stupid movie, God's Not Dead, or whatever horrible Hallmark movie or something.
Yeah.
It rides that line, and it rides it perfectly.
I don't know what it is. The execution just works, and both sides. And this is the thing, it's not just one. If it was just a Catholic side, I'm like, okay, but to get it right twice from both actors, it's kind of a feat. And just like you said, just like you, I was like, I think we have to have this conversation as well. If a character, let's just say Edward Norton was atheist, does he have the right? I mean, everyone say an actor acts, that's what they do. In today's climate, no. It's very different today. People, this guy is not, he shouldn't be doing that because he's not that. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with acting, even if it's something sensitive, as when you do it this well. And look at you, you're questioning if he actually is, a serious Catholic because of how well he executes the role. And so was I. Same thing with Ben Stiller. I was like, this is just too well done. It just can't be. I really, really hate to sound like I'm falling over this so much. Again, seeing these actors do these other roles, doing these very specific, very focused religious roles, and being like, man, these guys are actually, what is going on here? Are these guys actually...
You get the feeling watching the parts where they're doing their services, you would like to be there.
Yes.
And
they're really those people. I'm like, this is why I'm so flabbergasted.
You could get into, you could so easily make cheap jokes like, have you ever touched a little boy? Or, and go that direction. And instead it just looks at it and goes, you know what? The people that go to this church and the people that go to this synagogue, they're just nice people. And they have this community, and there's nothing dark or sinister about it. They don't get into the bigger politics of anything. It's just focus on these two specific churches and the people that go there, and just live their lives and try to be good people.
Just as a quick aside, there was only one joke in this movie which I thought in today's society they would remove. Or maybe James will say to me, nah, I'm being a little bit too touchy-feely. There's a lot of actors in here, by the way. I'm going to name two. One I'm going to bring up right now. Lisa Edelstein, I can't say her name properly, who was Cuddy in House MD with Hugh Laurie, the Mason series. She's in this, and she has a date with Ben Stiller. And there's a scene where she's talking about how much she tones up her abs, and she asks Ben Stiller to hit her in the stomach, and he's like, no, and then he does it, and then she just completely just gets knocked out. And even when you watch the Edward Norton interview I just got the clip from, he puts that scene on loop, and I'm just like, in 2020, are they really going to show there's going to be a backlash about a man hitting a woman in the film? I'm sure that would have been cut. And even another scene when she's trying to get him, drag him into the house for some sex, where he's like, no, and I think he pulls her away so hard that she rebounds and hits the pavement. Again, it's physical comedy, and it's against a woman, but I just feel like today, and how touchy-feely we are in society, I think those scenes will probably got cut.
There was some X-Men movie a few years ago where there was a big controversy because they had a billboard up, and it was the villain, and he's holding one of the heroes by their throat, and the hero's a woman, and it was like, violence against women. And I just remember thinking, they're super beings, and they're both painted blue.
Yeah,
and
that was Apocalypse. Oscar Isaac, I remember that. That was
and I just remember thinking, would Apocalypse not hit her? Because, well, I don't hit women. But yeah, I think it would probably cause some controversy. In the context, he doesn't want to do it. She keeps saying, come on, hit me.
Yeah.
The part that stood out to me was if they would do the karaoke store owner.
Well done. Well, you know what? And that was the big, I thought they were going to go. So Ken Lung, actor, he was in Lost. He did a movie. Ken Lung did a movie I was considering us talk about. Because again, it has a lot, it's a romantic comedy. It's called Shanghai Kiss. I like what the movie tried to do. I don't know. Let's just say it's for our consideration. We'll get back to that. But the character James was talking about is Ken Lung. There's a scene where they go to buy a karaoke machine, and there's an American Asian, and he's just hamming it up. He's got the Asian accent. It's really, really bad. But then at the end, he just comes out in American that, guys, I can cut you a deal. And it's funny. It was hilarious. And I'm glad they did that, and it wasn't just a stereotype. Edward Norton's smarter than that. I knew it wasn't going to happen, and I'm glad that they just went through with that. So I don't have a problem with that joke. And even because the point of the joke too was, he's doing it to dupe these people who come in and are too stupid to, they think, he's Asian, so of course he would know about karaoke machines. And so he hams it up for that reason. Yeah, he's not Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's or something like that. He's in control, and even he, just when you think he might be the one character that is kind of a jerk in the movie, they bring him back at the end. Yes, exactly.
And show that he's a nice guy too. Yeah.
And if you watch the credits of the movie, they show, again, Lisa Edenstein and King Long at the end. They put their bits in the credits, especially the scene I mentioned about Lisa Edenstein getting punched in the stomach. They actually they made a final joke about that again at the end of the movie, which again is fine. I know there'll be a hit piece. So someone will be watching the movie like, this movie's not okay. 2020. Yeah. I watched Keeping the Faith, and I noticed some inconsistencies and insensitive things against women that wouldn't fly in 2020.
Well, like I said, why don't they address the controversy in the Catholic Church?
Well done, exactly.
That's because it's not what the movie's about. To me, there were a few things that jumped out at me as being kind of dated.
Yeah, go ahead. Go on. What comes off your head as outdated? I'm interested.
There's that bit in the beginning where they're waiting for her at the airport, and he says, I bet she still listens to Leif Garrett, and Ben Stiller, no, it's Leif Garrett. Didn't you watch the Behind the Music? And that stuck out to me as sort of like, okay, that dates the movie. That makes it feel a little old. The part that maybe did bother me a little bit this time was, and I think I said this earlier, I feel like this was the part that was sort of aping Woody Allen a little.
Okay.
In a Woody Allen movie, you've got New York there, and everybody always, New York is a character in a Woody Allen movie, and that's sort of the cliche.
Yeah.
But Woody always does it by just having the city. It's just there. Here, there's so many lines of dialogue where somebody is saying, New York is such a great city. Can you believe we live in New York? And it sort of goes on and on and on. It's a little bit telling instead of showing.
Isn't that what you Americans do all the time?
Unfortunately, yes. But this movie was...
I thought that was a New York stereotype in general. Forget Woody Allen. I thought that was New Yorkers love New York. They can't shut up about New York. That's what I thought that was a go-to.
It might be. There's that one part where Edward Norton and Jenna Elfman are at a park, and maybe it's Central Park, and Edward Norton says something like, oh, the true New Yorker knows that anybody who lives anywhere else is kidding themselves. And I remember
Yeah.
looking at the scene and going, this doesn't even look like that nice of a park. I mean, it's fine. We have parks like that everywhere. It's not. Whereas in a Woody Allen movie, there'd be, like obviously the most obvious scene is the one in Manhattan, looking at the bridge. Woody has like, I think, one line of dialogue about, this city, it's a knockout. I don't care what anybody says. But mostly it's just the bridge. That's speaking for itself, instead of having to point out, we're in New York. Hey, remember everybody, we're in New York.
Hey, listen, I can only tell you as an outsider, as a non-American citizen, I see that shit all the time in American movies, TV shows. I think that's just this love for New York by New Yorkers. I hear it on the radio, some of my favorite New York podcasts. I mean, I hear that shit all the time. I think I listened to a podcast called Freakonomics where they've done that multiple times as well. So I don't know. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I see that a lot.
They basically make it clear, if you don't live in New York, you're an outsider. So in that sense, I'm also on the outside of it. But there were some lines of dialogue there that just jumped out at me. The movie is just so damn charming.
It is. I got to play some more clips, because I'm going to play all of these clips. I know we got to...
Please do.
Kind of wrap this up. Let me play some more clips, guys, because I love it that much. I'm sorry, but yeah, this was great. And this, again, I would say Edward Norton's directing the movie, and he puts the light on Jenna Elfman and Ben Stiller. And because of that, I would say as an actor, he's slightly shortchanged himself, but he's directing the movie anyway, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to guide the movie and act in it. And so I'm not surprised he's not in it as much as you might expect. He's in it a lot. I'm not saying that. But this is one of his big scenes. And again, this is where you see Edward Norton just acts differently. I haven't seen him act with this emotion, and just it's just so subtle. And it's kind of heartbreaking.
Brian, Brian, come on, let's just talk about this. You don't drink?
Excuse me, but I think in light of recent revelations, neither of us is in a position to say what the other one does or does not do with much authority, wouldn't you say? Oh, God. You must think I'm such an idiot.
No, Brian.
No. I mean, I think I'm an idiot. I mean, all these moments with you, I've been walking around on a cloud and just been reflected glow off of you and Jake.
That's not true.
I'm so embarrassed. God, talk about a bad case of the third wheel.
Oh, Brian.
I feel like I'm on some bad new Aaron spelling show. Melrose Priest.
No.
I don't get this. Why now? Why tell me like this? After months and months of lying, why call me over in the middle of the night and cry to me and... He broke up with you, didn't he? That moron broke up with you. And you called your old friend the priest.
Well,
No, it makes total sense. It's just... Tonight, I really didn't want to be one.
Man, the first time I don't know. I don't even remember that scene the first time I watched it. The second time, when he just said, I'm so embarrassed, and you see his face and how he delivers the line, and you look at him, it's a gut punch. I was surprised how sad I felt from that. Wow, man, I really feel the weight of just the shame and just the disappointment. I got another scene where he does the same thing again, but what great acting. And I really, after all these years, just last year, I saw Edward Norton, I always knew he was a great actor, without a doubt. He's done amazing movies, but I just saw a new dimension of him when I saw this movie, and I was really impressed.
People forget now, because he's sort of gotten a bad rap as being hard to work with and everything
Because of the Hulk, yeah.
because of the Hulk and everything. But he came out of the gate as like the greatest actor of his generation. I mean, the very first movie he does is Primal Fear, and he gets nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
By the time, Primal Fear was only, I think, 96. So by the time Keeping the Faith came out, he'd only really been around for 4 years. But
yeah,
he had American History X and Fight Club and People versus Larry Flint and Rounders, and the guy just sort of came out and dominated.
Yeah.
And then he gets his chance, okay, we're going to let you direct. What do you want to direct? I want to direct this really light movie where it's priest and a rabbi fall in love with the same girl. And he could have just as easily made a David Fincher kind of a movie, or
which would be more expected as well.
I mean, there's just one shot in this movie where like the Edward Norton we know comes out, where he's having a dream about actually getting to sleep with Jenna Elfman, and there's one tight shot on his face where it's like, that's the guy from Fight Club, that's the guy from American History X. You see that tension in his face, that aggression.
I pause you there and say, actually, before I forget, the sensual scenes that are in this movie, because there's a lot of sex between Jenna Elfman and Ben Stiller, and that dream you just mentioned, it's shot actually quite intimately. The scenes where they're making love, they're very fleeting, because it's kind of the scenes just jump between Ben Stiller. It shows how their relationship is kind of progressing and degrading, and the sex they have is really sensual. I mean, the first time they have sex in the bed, and the way he's caressing, and the way Edward Norton directed those scenes, surprisingly intimate for even this borderline family movie, that I was like, this is quite intimate. And that dream where he was, as a priest having his first erotic dream about his friend, it was comical as well. It was really well done. I just thought, he's got an eye. He's got an eye for this, for sensual stuff too, which is I have to compliment.
I mean, and the sort of the pent up sexual desire that you'd have if you were a priest.
Yes.
He doesn't just dream about like this sensual moment with her. He's ripping her clothes off, and which makes sense. And I think looking at the movie, another director might not have done that. They might have pulled back and said, oh, let's have this where all they do is kiss, and then he wakes up. And instead it's like, no, this guy he's a priest. He's not had sex in, they mentioned that he had sex before he became a priest, but this guy's repressed. Yeah. And so his dream has to represent that. And again, this could have been, they keep it PG-13, but I mean, the scenes with her and Ben Stiller, it's surprisingly, I mean, at first all they want to be is friends with benefits.
Yeah.
And they could shy away from that. They could cut to the curtains, and instead they linger on it, and they show these two people in a very intimate moment. And it's a comedy for adults that doesn't have to rely on, most of the time if you say, well, we're making a comedy for adults, then it's R-rated and it's immature, and which is fine. Those movies have their place too. But this one, it's sort of like, we're going to assume that our audience is smart. And it's the reason I love Woody. It's because he doesn't play down to the audience. He never assumes that his audience is dumb.
Yeah. And
this movie, says, hey, we're going to assume that you're all grown-ups here.
Well, let me play the last two clips, and then because I got a question to ask you. It's our Woody Allen question, but just because I was just about to interrupt you to play it, because you almost pinpointed the perfect place to play this, but I'll play it here anyway. And this was when he talks to his priest about the situation, how he felt.
I don't know. I'll tell you something. If she had kissed me back, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now. I would have given it all up. And I mean, she didn't, but I don't know. I keep thinking about what you said in the seminary about how, the life of a priest is hard. And if you can see yourself being happy doing anything else, you should do that.
Well, that was my recruitment pitch, which is not bad when you are starting out because it makes you feel like a Marine. The truth is, you can never tell yourself that there is only one thing you could be. If you're a priest or if you marry a woman, it's the same challenge. You cannot make a real commitment unless you accept that it's a choice which you keep making again and again and again. I've been a priest over 40 years, and I fell in love at least once every decade.
You're not going to tell me what to do here, are you?
No.
So then you've got some added wisdom to the story as well. There's one last clip I'll play in a minute, but I just want to say the movie has definite wisdom in it. There's a lot of allegories. There's a lot of sensible talk. There's one scene I didn't want to capture. There's an argument between Ben Stiller and Edward Norton. The last argument they have when Ben Stiller kind of catches him outside after they've had a massive fight, and that was that one scene where they really argue and they have it out is when they show their true friendship. When they really rise above. You really see what their friendship is really about, even with the situation they have with the love triangle. And I felt jealous. I felt I don't have a friend like that. Like they really love each other as friends, regardless of what's going on. And even if the thing I love about this story is that I felt like no matter how the relationship went with Jenna, they still would have been friends because their friendship means more to them. It's really important that they're all friends. And on that note, I will play the final clip, which will solidify the point I just made, which is an amazing, amazing final point.
You don't have to say anything, okay? Just listen to me. I just want to say one thing and then I will go away. You're my friend. And whatever else is going on, can't have you out there thinking that my feelings for you are tied into my feelings for Jake.
That's not the problem, and you know it. I thought you wanted me. And that affected me. I don't know. I maybe that's not fair and I'm reading all kinds of things wrong, but it sure felt that way to me.
I don't know what to say. I've just been having so much fun, and I've been feeling all of these feelings lately, and not just my feelings for Jake. Reconnecting with this part of myself that has been shut down for a long time. And if I indulged those feelings too much with you, or if I took you for granted, I am so sorry. I can't bear that I hurt you.
It's not your fault. I totally set myself up for this. I'll tell you something, I don't know which feels worse, having my heart broken or starting to doubt myself because of what that means for me.
Don't you dare doubt yourself. You have a gift and you know it. And if you start to doubt that because of me, Brian, I don't know what I would do with myself.
I don't doubt myself because of you. I feel like the best version of myself around you, and that makes me doubt everything else.
I don't know what to do, Brian. Just tell me what to do and I will do it.
That last scene just showed me how sophisticated and mature the movie is with its narrative and its friendship. And that, I mean, no matter how silly the movie is, that the friendship and the way how evenly mature it is and fair and honest, and earnest. I think this movie is really, 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 really earnest in a very mature way that maybe you have to be a certain age to appreciate, that you just don't see in many movies, especially in a movie about, a love triangle. They are so trite. Those relationships and those series and those other mediums that tackle freeways are so annoying. But when you do it with these actors that surprise you with this mature, thought-provoking and sophisticated, it's really strange. I can't believe how this movie turned out the second time I watched it. What a gem. This movie is a absolute gem. And I'm not saying it's the most amazing movie ever, but it will surprise you. And it has a high rewatchability. And I'm sorry to jump on you. I'm going to cut and say this one last thing. If all that wasn't enough, if everything wasn't enough, at the very end, he even breaks convention. When, the two characters know they love each other, they know it's going to be race to the airport. Even the way the final, love bit is executed defies convention. Edward Norton's like, you know what? I'm going to do that even differently. Even just the setup. It's fun, it's different, it's unique. It makes a film different and refreshing and funny. I mean, that's what makes this, to quote an Aladdin reference, a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, it's I want to watch the movie again. It's I mean, what you said, I think that was another thing when I was watching the movie that I related to the first time I watched it. I mentioned that, I just had my heart broken, and it was really having this person who I was the best version of myself around, and I was much younger than Edward Norton's character. But to have that and then to not have it, you then have to figure out how to be that version of yourself when you're not with that person. And that's the kind, this movie doesn't, it could just as easily have ended with, I can imagine that the sort of what people might have thought it would have been in an Edward Norton movie. Oh, then he gets his heart broken and he shoots them both.
Exactly. Fight Club 2.
Yeah. And instead, it's, even when it gets that scene that you mentioned where the two of them have the big fight, I never disliked Ben Stiller in it, because
never. Yeah,
his reasoning is
fair.
It's not, oh, I want to be a player, I want to, I don't want to be tied down. It's, I'm worried what's going to happen to my relationship with my mother, to my congregation. It's not, oh, well, there's these other women and I kind of like to sleep with them. He's got actual concerns that are justified. And I think that'd be the one, he played that scene with the older priest. That might be my favorite scene in the movie. And I love Milos Forman as a director. And so to see him get to have that performance was, and by a little piece of trivia.
Yeah.
Milos Forman, the year before, had directed Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman movie.
Oh, the Jim Carrey movie. Yeah, cool. Mm-hmm.
And if you listen, there's a part in it where Edward Norton leaves a voicemail for Jenna Elfman. And he does an Andy Kaufman impression in the voicemail.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay. Uh-huh.
Edward Norton was up for the role of Andy Kaufman in that movie. And basically it came down to him and Jim Carrey. And Milos Forman couldn't decide which one. And he literally went to the studio. He said, these two are both perfect. You pick. And the studio picked Jim Carrey. But Edward Norton came that close to being Andy Kaufman. So he'd spent a lot of time with Milos Forman, and he said, hey, I'm doing this movie. Would you come over, play this little part? And then he gets to do his Andy Kaufman impression.
Interesting. Well done. That's a deep cut.
The only, I mean, you don't really have that scene between Ben Stiller and Eli Wallach as much. The older person that Ben Stiller gets to interact with in that sort of way is his mother. And the the dynamic between a mother and son, between best friends, between friends who become lovers, it's all played in a way that feels real. And when you laugh, the laughter is for the most part recognition of the reality of it. It's not, there's the occasional wacky bits, like you said, the resolution of the run to the airport kind of a moment is sort of a Ben Stiller gets to have some physical comedy there.
Yeah.
But the bad date that he goes on with the one
Lisa
woman that he punches in the stomach.
Yeah.
I've been on that date.
Yeah.
And the moments like that, they feel real, and you laugh at the sort of, there's that great moment where Anne Bancroft she wants to just have this nice moment with her son and with Jenna Elfman, and she says, let's just take a moment and breathe.
Yeah.
And you're not breathing. I don't hear you breathing. And it's not like a hit you over the head kind of a joke. It's a joke that you have to be, I could see like younger people being bored out of their mind during this movie.
Definitely.
People who don't want to invest the time. They're like, where are the jokes? We want jokes like thrown in our face constantly. And that's not what this movie is going to do. You have to, again, going back to Woody, there's a sophistication to it. There's, even when Woody is doing the, Bananas or Sleeper, he's not, he's doing something that's broader, but it's not saying, oh, my audience is stupid, they're not going to understand if I don't, hit them over the head with it. This movie is very smart. It's very sweet, which is a very hard combination to do. A very sweet movie can oftentimes be very saccharine and sticky and gooey and make you just cringe. And this one really doesn't do that. And that's Edward Norton really should direct more often.
Yeah, I just realized that we've been praising Edward Norton and Jenna, but I forgot to say Ben Stiller was a great actor here. He did really, really well. I mean, I just forgot to praise him just because I was completely transfixed by his performance. I never really saw Ben Stiller as a super goofy slapstick actor anyway. Every time I see him, he's one of the, even though he's a good comedy actor and even director, as we've seen, I just bought him. I had an easier time buying him than Edward Norton. Edward Norton was the one I was shocked as I was seeing, like, wow, he's an earnest, soft priest. He really is that character. But something about Ben Stiller, it just felt so natural. Big testament to Ben Stiller. He was a great pick. He did really well. I've got nothing. I should give him the praise he deserves as well. And their friendship for both of them, they both bring it to the table. They're both on an even kill. I believe they're friends in real life. Obviously, that's why they did it together. It shows in the movie. I would have never guessed. If you had told me, 10 years ago they did the movie, even 2010, I'd be like, really? What kind of movie was that? Was Ben Stiller a cop and was Edward Norton a killer, and then some goofy hijinks? If you told me they were one's a rabbi, one's a Catholic priest, and they're both in the love triangle, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
No, I mean, even if you look at it's a very subtle thing, but like Edward Norton lightens his hair in the movie and is more of a blonde in the movie. It's almost like he's trying to say to the audience, I know you just saw me in Fight Club last year, but just kind of settle into me doing this. And but you're right, Ben Stiller, I don't feel like he gets enough credit in general.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I mean, he did the Meet the Parents movies, and he's, because you get into that, this was so successful, I'm going to try and do more of these, and then they're never as good. But he's done a lot of movies like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which
I didn't like. It wasn't his fault. It was a remake, and I was a bit disappointed with actually the script of that. I was looking forward to that movie a lot when it
that's a movie that like I feel like I like it more every time I see it.
Okay.
I didn't like it all that much the first time I saw it, but I come back to it actually.
Okay.
Every few years, and I find that I enjoy it more every time. But
okay.
But his performances, I think what people were expecting, it's a Ben Stiller movie, it's going to be like Tropic Thunder. And instead it was, it wasn't the goofy, people probably saw the,
did he direct that, by the way?
He directed that one.
He did direct that as well, yeah.
And did a gorgeous job of the
cinematography is phenomenal. The trailer is amazing. The
trailer is maybe one of the best trailers they've ever made for a movie that wasn't really that great. But
I have to agree. Yeah.
But you see the dream sequences in the trailer and everything, and you think, oh, it's going to be this wacky comedy, and instead it's very earnest, and it's this guy on this journey, and he can play those parts, and he does in this. He plays somebody who, even though he's funny in the movie, you buy him as a spiritual leader to this synagogue. You don't, it doesn't feel like somebody, where you see somebody in a part and you're like, no, I don't believe them in that part. You believe him. You believe that people would come to the synagogue to hear him speak, and he would be that kind of a spiritual leader, and you believe it from Edward Norton. And that's maybe the key to this movie, because Jenna Elfman brings the believability that both of these guys would fall in love with her. You buy them in this, and that is, if even one of them had been miscast, it wouldn't work. And luckily, all three of them are great in it.
I have one more clip. It's a funny one. I'm going to end on a bit of a funny joke, but all I will say, guys, you've heard us talk about the movie in depth, play the clips. Just go in with an open mind. If you didn't watch the movie, you didn't stop, you heard us go over it, just go in with an open mind. Forget everything you've seen for Edward Norton and Ben Stiller. As hard as it may be, try to forget and just watch the two actors, watch the story, and see what you think, and keep an open mind. It's just forget about edginess, forget about what they've done, the tone of their movies, the things they've done. You might be in for a really pleasant surprise. And yeah, I'll play this final clip. It's just one of the funny parts of the movie. I think it kind of starts off this way, and then you get back. The movie kind of starts in reverse, because Edward Norton, when it starts, is walking around drunk. And I'm like, that's Edward Norton. I know what's happened. What's happened to you, Ed? And then you watch the movie, you find out. And then just this part just made me laugh. So I thought I'll just bring it up here.
Let me get this straight. I'm talking to a priest who went on a bender because his best friend, the rabbi, stole his girl.
Right.
I want to thank you for telling me this story.
Why?
Because now I can retire.
You have to give me advice. That's what this is supposed to be about.
Oh, God. What do I know? I'm a half Punjabi Sikh, 1/4 Tamil separatist. My sister's married a Jewish doctor from New Jersey, and our other grandmother was an Irish nun who left me this bar, which is a very long story.
You're a Sikh, Catholic, Muslim with Jewish in-laws?
Yes. Yes. It gets very complicated. I'm reading Dianetics.
I don't blame you.
That's probably the most Woody Allen joke in the whole movie.
Yes. Real quick, that probably is the only other bit that I would kind of criticize, is Edward Norton starts telling that story to the bartender, and he's drunk and he's slurring his words. But when it goes into the narration, he's suddenly very eloquent and speaking fine. And
yeah,
it's a minor little nitpick, but it was something that jumped out at me. It jumps out at me every time, like, oh, he's fine now, apparently. But that joke is great, and
yeah,
I another character in the movie that's like I said, all the supporting characters work. It's he just has a great eye for casting.
Yeah. That's it, man. I've just all talked about the movie. It was pleasant, man. I've been looking forward to talk about this for so long. Guys, if you've watched the movie, share your thoughts on it. If you haven't, go back, watch it, come and comment on our video. Again, this will be up on YouTube. James, I feel like this was a phenomenal recommendation. I love these movies that we've just missed and no one talks about, and we share them and they get more steam. I know that's what, reviewing's all about, not just the movies we love. I said this before. I love just having a discourse, but when it's something that we really enjoy, it makes it even better. But this is one I think people should check out more. I know we always say, what would he have done? I don't know. If Woody put his hand in this, again, I always say this. Sometimes Woody folds that neurotic character in too much. When Woody doesn't do that, you get more stuff like this, because Woody's got all the ingredients just like this for sophistication, good storytelling. But when he throws in that zany Woody Allen character, I just think the movie could be stronger without it. So I think the movie would be a little bit more, in terms of presentation, directing, be a lot more finessed, more visually stunning. It would have a better score. But I don't think there's much to improve or upgrade in terms of the delivery of the relationship, the characters. Again, we're not trying to compare. This is just for fun. This is just looking through the lens of a Woody Allen fan.
I can see it as a Woody Allen movie, like 1979. Woody's playing the Ben Stiller character. Diane Keaton is the Jenna Elfman character.
Yeah.
It would have been. It might have been good in a different kind of a way, but I don't think it would be as good as this.
Yeah, well, I guess that is one of my favorite Woody Allen movies. The one which I can't remember right now. Bloody hell, the one with him, Diane Keaton. That's the first movie he ever had with Diane Keaton in it, which I'm blanking on the name right now.
Sleeper?
No.
What's a sleeper? Oh, Play It Again, Sam?
Yes, that's it. Play It Again, Sam. Well done. Thank you. So, yeah, I guess, that kind of setup is similar, but still. Yeah, man. Really enjoyed this movie. Glad to add it. What a perfect addition to Woody Adjacent. So, guys, yeah, again, let us know what you think. The next movie we're going to be discussing, I will let you know, actually. For you guys who want to go and check it out first, this is quite a hard movie to find. There is a trailer out for it, guys, but do not look for the trailer. If you want to get the movie, just get it. You can get it on DVD. It is like less than $4. I've seen it on Amazon UK. The movie is called Entropy, Entropy. It was made in 1999. The director is Phil Johnonu. It stars an actor which gets a lot of flack, but I think he's a good actor, Stephen Dorff. I've spoken about this movie on YouTube. It's a favorite of mine, but I would love to get James's take on it. So that is the movie we're going to be talking about in January. And yeah, guys, you want to check it out first, or you've seen it, stay tuned for that discussion. On a last side note, to drag this out even more, James, you brought up a movie that someone recommended or said that we might want to check out, called The Accidental Tourist. Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
I watched the movie. Man, it's missing a lot, man.
Yeah, you said to me, I haven't watched it yet, but
yeah, I'm the reason why I'm putting it on the airwaves for everyone to hear. What do you guys think? Do you think we should talk about Accidental Tourist? I think Woody could have made it into a classic, because honestly, it needed Woody's hand very strongly, and I would come down on the movie because it's missing a lot. It's missing a lot, but it's got the ingredients. I don't think I want to talk about it, but I'm going to let James watch it and then decide if you want to talk about it, and then we'll go from there. But if you've seen that movie, then let us know. But that's for consideration. So anyway, James, is there anything else you want to say before I let you go from this discussion?
I hope everybody goes out and checks out Keeping the Faith.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It's out on DVD. You can find it. The cover is kind of weird because, Edward Norton's hair is even more blonde on the DVD cover than he is in the actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same movie, guys. It is the same movie. It's the only one with him and the Ben Stiller. And I don't think Edward Norton directed the movie after this, if I'm not mistaken. But
he directed one just, I think, last year called Motherless Brooklyn, but it's very different. It's more like a film noir kind of a movie.
He directed that movie. I saw the trailer for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think that's a crime movie, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's the only other one that he's done so far.
All right, let me wrap up the discussion there before we go on a whole nother bender. Guys, thank you for listening. Don't forget, James, where can they find you if they want to contact you directly, as always?
You can always find me at manic-expression.com, and my books are available on Amazon.
The links will be in the description for that. You can find us on Twitter at Planet Tyro. We're on YouTube at Planet Tyro. All the links will be in the description. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And yeah, let other people know you might find interesting. And in the meanwhile, don't worry, we're always on the lookout for more Woody Allen stuff. But until next time, thanks for listening.